Hello everyone, my name is Bryan Stephens and I want to welcome you for this edition of Chamber Chats. We're very honored today to have with us Angie Bezik. Angie is the chair of our Legislative Affairs Committee and she's very active in the Chamber. So Angie, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks very much.
Could you tell us a little bit about yourself, Angie, a little bit about your company, and then maybe a little bit about why you volunteer with the Chamber of Commerce?
Sure. So I have a small company called Principal Advantage Government Relations, LLC, and we do government relations and some PR stuff, grassroots, grass tops, and I got there by starting out as a legislative aide for a member of the House of Delegates a long time ago, and I won't share how long. And the reason I volunteer here at the Hampton Roads Chamber is because I think it is important for the community, the business community, to understand, especially on the legislative front, the things that can help them or hurt them as they go about their business day after day, year after year.
Yeah. Absolutely, and Angie, you've heard me say this before, but I think that our legislative agenda and what we do to deliberately try to shape legislation in favor of the business community is one of the most important things we do as a chamber.
It is.
And there are so many small businesses out there that quite frankly can't afford to hire somebody to do it, but by joining the chamber, they're enabling us to represent them in Richmond and help shape legislation on behalf of the business community.
Absolutely right. They're too busy trying to make work happen every
That's
day.
right.
Yes.
That's right. They're focused on their work and making payroll and making sure that they address the needs, wants, and desires of their customers. So we do that for them.
Right.
And I think it's extremely important, like I said. But you know, it's also as challenging as it is important. Because you know, shaping legislation, especially in Richmond, is not easy because we have a very unique General Assembly in that it changes constantly. In fact, it changes every 2 years. And it has changed for this General Assembly session in that we've got a Democratic-controlled Senate, we have a Republican-controlled House, and we've got a Republican in the executive branch as well.
Correct.
Yeah. So how has that shaped the climate in the General Assembly this year?
So from my perspective, it has changed a little bit. There's more discussion about the bills as far as real connecting with each other, looking for ways to make things happen because each member has legislation that they bring that they would like to get passed for a host of reasons. A constituent has asked for it. It's something that they've seen a need for across the board in their outreach in the community or universities contacting them or whatever in that regard. And so, they would like to make sure that they're able to help their constituents. The other part of that that I've seen is a lot of bipartisanship, and that was a part of my strategy while I was up there, was to have patrons and chief co-patrons from each side of the aisle in each body. And so that way there's buy-in on both sides. You know that the chief patron and the chief co-patron are each talking in their caucuses about the benefits of the legislation and hopefully being able to move that forward.
Seems like there's more compromise this year with leadership in the House and the Senate being different.
I think so. I feel that way, and less aggressive. I mean, they have their moments always, even best of times, worst of times, right? And so they do their job on the floor and they do the battle, and then when they walk away, it seems like it's not the hard feelings like we may have perceived in the past.
Yeah. Well, there were a lot of bills that went through this session. Are there one or two or three bills that really stand out in your mind that had the most impact on the business community?
I think for our business community, a House and Senate bill, they were companion bills, that stands out, and something that has been worked on for several years now, is the ability for small businesses to, through a nonprofit membership such as the Chamber, to be able to leverage that membership through the Chamber to create a consortium, a benefits consortium, healthcare consortium. So some of the smaller businesses who might not have otherwise been able to afford health insurance will now, after the regulatory process is done and the 11th, once it gets signed, because we've had our former governor had nixed that a couple of times, and Senator Mason just kept coming back, and so to his credit and to our members' benefit.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's good, and
It is very
we'll
good.
follow the regulatory process through the Bureau of Insurance and see what all ultimately happens and what you're going to have to do.
Well, that's certainly one that favors the business community, and we don't need to go into it, but I know there's a lot of bills that we try to get killed because we thought it would have a negative impact on the business community, which again is all part of shaping legislation either for, we think will support the business community or hurt the business community. And I think we did a really good job with your leadership up there this year, and Gretchen, who is our Vice President for Legislative Affairs. You guys just did a great job up there this year. But we're not over yet.
No.
Because we do not have an approved budget.
We have adjourned sine die for the regular session. We will go into special session, and they've taken the bills that were left, instead of just letting them die on the vine, move them to the special session, and especially the budget. They have a lot of work to do there. They're pretty far apart.
And as you well know, because you lead our efforts on this, there's a lot of legislation in that budget that we track very, very closely. Looking forward to the future, how do you think the next few months will play out, and what will the impact be on the business community?
The next few months in regard to General Assembly activity, I think we're going to see some ramping up. We still don't know yet. The courts have not decided whether there will be an election again this year for the House of Delegates. There's a possibility of special election with certain people running for Congress, and how will the court, the original court I don't know, report or final requirements through the court on the redistricting said that any future elections would be in the new districts. But then we had a Norfolk member of the House of Delegates resign, and a new one was elected in that same district. And so we'll see if that will gunk it up, or who knows. So.
Oh yeah. Well, remember I said we had a very complicated General Assembly, and that redistricting is part of it.
It is.
Real quickly, what are your thoughts on funding for the I-64 gap?
So the Senate has $190 million in their budget, and the House has $30 million in their budget. And all of that is really great, except right now there are some requests from the governor to stay for a year, 26 cents. That's about $390 million for us, and about half the cost of that gap. So, lower taxes sounds good on the surface, but they're core issues that we need to take care of. In transportation, this chamber, the legislators who represent this entire region worked really hard for multiple years to make sure that we had a stable transportation funding mechanism, and including taxing ourselves. We all went and voted for that, and so we have the HR TAC now with a little bit of extra that's really been able to be leveraged in a really great way for this area.
In a fantastic way. And again, I think that closing that 29-mile gap is extremely important to our economy and quality of life here in the region. So we think it's very important. But there's so many things going on at the General Assembly, and I know that you were up there working on our behalf, and I can't tell you how much we appreciate it. We appreciate your leadership. We appreciate everything that you do. And it's not what you do for the chamber, even though we value that very much, but it's what you do for the business community at large, because we know that that's your big interest. You want to ensure that we have a pro-business environment here in Hampton Roads. And what you do in Richmond really helps us achieve that. So thank you so much for your leadership.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
And thank you for being here today. Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes this edition of Chamber Chat. Thank you for watching.